The rise and fall of Kodak is one of the most captivating corporate sagas of the 20th and 21st centuries. Once a dominant force in the world of photography, Kodak stood as a towering giant, leading technological innovation for nearly a century. At its peak, the company's name was synonymous with photography, and its famous tagline, "You press the button, we do the rest," was more than just a slogan. It was a symbol of Kodak's philosophy of making photography accessible to everyone. Yet, despite its initial success, Kodak's inability to adapt to the digital age led to its downfall, a cautionary tale offering crucial lessons for businesses navigating rapidly changing technological landscapes. Kodak was founded in 1888 by George Eastman, who aimed to simplify the complicated process of photography, which at the time required cumbersome equipment and chemicals. Eastman's invention, the Kodak camera, revolutionized photography by using flexible roll film instead of glass plates, making the process much more user-friendly. The introduction of the Brownie camera in 1900 was another major breakthrough, as it brought affordable photography to the masses. Kodak's cameras were designed for the average person, making photography an accessible hobby rather than a professional pursuit. Eastman's vision was not just about selling cameras. Kodak's true brilliance lay in its business model, which revolved around selling the film, processing, and printing services. The cameras themselves were affordable, but the recurring revenue from film sales and developing services made Kodak one of the most profitable companies of the early 20th century. By the 1920s, Kodak controlled 90% of the film market in the United States, becoming an essential part of American culture. As the century progressed, Kodak continued to innovate with the introduction of color photography, particularly the development of Kodachrome film in 1935. This invention opened a new world for both amateur photographers and professionals, allowing them to capture vibrant, lifelike images in color. Kodachrome was used to shoot iconic images, including some of the most memorable moments in history, such as National Geographic covers and key war photographs. By the 1960s and 1970s, Kodak was a juggernaut, controlling the photography market across the globe. The company's dominance in both consumer and professional markets was unquestioned. At its peak, Kodak employed over 145,000 people and was valued at over $30 billion. It was during this period of dominance that the seeds of its downfall were planted. Ironically, Kodak's decline began with the invention of the very technology that would go on to revolutionize photography, the digital camera. In 1975, Steve Sasson, an engineer at Kodak, created the world's first digital camera. However, Kodak's management, fearing that digital photography would cannibalize its profitable film business, shelved the invention. Sasson later reflected that Kodak's executives weren't impressed with his digital camera, describing their reaction as, "That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it." This reluctance to embrace digital technology became one of Kodak's greatest mistakes. While the company had pioneered the technology that would go on to define the future of photography, it chose not to invest in it. Instead, Kodak doubled down on its traditional film business, focusing on short-term profits at the expense of long-term innovation. By the time digital cameras began gaining mainstream popularity in the late 1990s, Kodak had already fallen behind. Competitors like Sony, Nikon, and Canon quickly seized the opportunity and began dominating the market. Kodak's slow transition into digital photography allowed its competitors to lead, and the company's efforts to catch up proved too little, too late. In an attempt to save itself, Kodak poured billions into developing its own line of digital cameras, but they failed to capture significant market share. Its products were often outclassed by the more sophisticated and cheaper models offered by its rivals. The decline continued throughout the early 2000s, as Kodak struggled to adapt to the rapidly evolving digital world. In 2004, the company made the monumental decision to stop producing traditional film cameras, a move that marked the end of an era. While Kodak still sold film for several more years, it was clear that the company's best days were behind it. The rise of smartphones with built-in cameras further compounded Kodak's struggles. As photography became a digital and mobile experience, consumers no longer needed separate cameras or film. Kodak's core market evaporated almost overnight. By 2012, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, signaling the end of its dominance in the photography industry. Kodak's failure wasn't just about missing the digital revolution, it was also about a failure of leadership and vision. But these efforts were fragmented and poorly executed. Unlike companies like Apple, which redefined entire industries by embracing innovation, Kodak clung to the past. Despite its struggles, Kodak attempted a series of reinventions in the years following its bankruptcy. In 2018, the company announced the launch of Kodak Coin, a cryptocurrency aimed at helping photographers manage image rights. While the announcement caused a brief surge in the company's stock price, the project quickly fizzled out. In another surprising move, Kodak ventured into pharmaceuticals during the COVID-19 pandemic. The company received a $765 million loan from the U.S. government to produce pharmaceutical ingredients, marking a dramatic shift from its origins in photography. These attempts to diversify have yet to yield significant results, and Kodak remains a shadow of its former self. Today, Kodak is a cautionary tale for companies around the world. It serves as a reminder that no matter how dominant a company may be, it cannot afford to ignore the future. Innovation is essential for survival in the rapidly changing technological landscape, and businesses must be willing to adapt, even if that means disrupting their own models. Kodak's failure to do so cost it its place at the top of the photography world, but its legacy as a pioneer of modern photography will remain. While the company continues to search for a new path, it is clear that Kodak will never again be the giant it once was. Nonetheless, the lessons from its rise and fall are more relevant than ever. The rise of digital photography and mobile technology upended Kodak's business model. But it's important to remember that this didn't happen overnight. The company's downfall was the result of years of poor decision-making, reluctance to innovate, and a corporate culture that favored short-term profits over long-term growth. Kodak's rise and fall is one of the most compelling stories in corporate history, illustrating how a company that once dominated the global photography industry could find itself in bankruptcy less than a century later. Kodak's origins trace back to 1888, when George Eastman founded the Eastman Kodak Company with the release of the Kodak camera. Eastman's goal was simple: to make photography accessible to the masses. His slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest," embodied the company's mission. By providing not just the cameras, but also the film and the development process, Kodak created an integrated business model that revolutionized the photography industry. Over the next few decades, the company expanded rapidly, with innovations like the Brownie camera in 1900 and Kodachrome film in 1935, which made color photography widely available. Kodak was a symbol of innovation and quality. By the mid-20th century, the company had grown into a corporate giant, dominating the global market for photographic film and cameras. Its name became synonymous with capturing life's precious moments, so much so that the phrase "Kodak moment" became part of popular culture, representing moments worthy of being immortalized on film. But even as Kodak was thriving, the seeds of its downfall were being sown. In the mid-1970s, one of Kodak's own engineers, Steve Sasson, invented the world's first digital camera. This could have been a monumental turning point for Kodak. However, the company's leadership, focused on protecting its lucrative film business, dismissed the invention. Sasson recalled that Kodak executives said, "That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it." This refusal to embrace digital technology would prove to be a critical error. At the time, Kodak had a virtual monopoly on the film market, and management feared that moving into digital photography would cannibalize its core business. The company chose to protect its profits from film sales rather than invest in what was clearly the future of photography. As digital photography gained traction in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Kodak was caught flat-footed. Competitors like Sony, Nikon, and Canon quickly capitalized on the digital revolution, while Kodak remained stubbornly focused on film. When Kodak eventually did enter the digital market, it was too late. The company's digital cameras were no match for its competitors, both in terms of quality and price. Moreover, Kodak's corporate culture, which had been built around film, struggled to adapt to the fast-paced digital world. The decline of Kodak was not instantaneous, but it was dramatic. By the early 2000s, the company was losing market share and hemorrhaging money. In 2004, Kodak announced that it would stop producing traditional film cameras, a decision that marked the end of an era. Despite investing billions in digital photography and even launching its own line of digital cameras, Kodak never regained its former dominance. The company continued to lose ground to more nimble and innovative competitors. By 2012, Kodak had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, marking the official end of its reign as the king of photography. However, Kodak's story does not end with bankruptcy. In the years following its financial collapse, the company has attempted to reinvent itself several times. One of the more bizarre moves came in 2018, when Kodak announced it was launching its own cryptocurrency, Kodak Coin, aimed at helping photographers manage image rights. The announcement briefly sent the company's stock soaring, but the venture ultimately failed. Kodak also ventured into the pharmaceutical industry in 2020, receiving a $765 million loan from the U.S. government to produce pharmaceutical ingredients, though this too has been met with skepticism. Looking at Kodak's rise and fall, it's clear that the company's demise was not due to a lack of technological foresight. Steve Sasson's digital camera could have positioned Kodak as a leader in the digital age. Instead, the company's downfall was the result of a failure to adapt to changing market conditions. Kodak's leadership was so focused on protecting its existing business model that it missed the opportunity to capitalize on the very technology it had invented. The story of Kodak is a cautionary tale for businesses in any industry. No company, no matter how dominant, can afford to rest on its laurels. In today's fast-paced, technology-driven world, innovation is not optional. It's essential for survival. Kodak's legacy, however, is not just one of failure. For nearly a century, the company was at the forefront of photographic innovation, making it possible for millions of people to capture and preserve their memories. Even as Kodak struggled to adapt to the digital era, it left an indelible mark on the history of photography. The Kodak moment may no longer carry the same weight it once did, but the company's contributions to the art and science of photography will be remembered for generations. In conclusion, Kodak's rise and fall provide valuable lessons for any business. Innovation is crucial, but so is the willingness to embrace change, even when it threatens established revenue streams. The reluctance to disrupt its own business model ultimately led to Kodak's downfall, but its story is a testament to the power of innovation and the dangers of complacency. Today, Kodak continues to search for a new identity, but its journey serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of adapting to the future rather than clinging to the past.